Words you need, advanced. Lesson 11, words 501 to 550. So these are words that you might not know, even if your English is really good. So, let's go. The first one, number 501, здесь должен быть какой-то подвох. There must be a catch. So, I'm sure you know the verb to catch, поймать, ловить, but we also use catch, like зацепиться. For example, my jacket caught on a twig. A twig is маленькая веточка. Вот зацепилась на маленькую веточку. It got caught on a twig. It caught on a twig. You can also say, my pocket caught on the door handle. Has that ever happened to you when the handle goes in your pocket and then whoa? That's happened to me a few times. My pocket caught on the door handle. And we also talk about we use catch on to talk about something becoming popular. So, do you think VR glasses will catch on? That's about virtual reality glasses. Do you think everybody will walk around in virtual reality glasses one day? Do you think they'll catch on? So it's this idea of зацепиться. And here with подвох, наверное, мы зацепим на что-нибудь. There must be a catch, something that's not quite right. A catch. All right, let's move on. Наша компания торгует сырьевыми товарами. Our company trades commodities. Commodities. An important word if you work in finance. If you don't, maybe you can live without it. The next one. Лига состоит из 20 команд. The league is comprised of 20 teams. Now, I'm sure you know the phrase consists of. The league consists of 20 teams. Billy? No. The league. What's the difference? Well, let's use the corpus to try to get a feel for how these words are used. So, consists of, and then we'll need collocates and nouns, which are often used after consists of. Let's have a look. I wonder if we can get more than 4. Ah, yes, we can get 6. Great, that might help us in this context. So here, with consists of, we often get parts, items, people, components, a series. Now let's try comprised of and see what we get. People, members, students, items, individuals. So the only word that doesn't appear in both lists is this one. It consists of 3 parts. We don't say it's comprised of 3 parts. But pretty much all the other words, they appear in both lists. So if you're talking about a group of people, you can say our committee consists of 15 people, or our committee is comprised of 15 people, and it really doesn't matter. But if you want to say how many parts there are, this lesson consists of 5 parts. Good. This lesson is comprised of 5 parts. That sounds a bit weird. But that's apparently the only big difference. They're almost the same. Okay, let's look at the next one. Этот телескоп может обнаруживать инфракрасный свет из глубокого космоса. This telescope can detect infrared light from deep space. So here the word is detect. Try to put a pause between your and your k. Try to do detect, and then a nice pause, and then detect. when we have a vowel between two unvoiced consonants, here t and k are unvoiced consonants, even more so because they are unvoiced aspirated consonants, the vowel gets kind of swallowed. It becomes a very breathy vowel. It's almost like we aspirate the vowel. Detect, detect, detect infrared light from deep space. Detect. And there is a noun as well, detection. Как грабителям удалось избежать обнаружения? How did the robbers avoid detection? And let's have a look at other things that are often detected. So we'll need to use detect like that. That gives all the forms of the verb, and we go for nouns before, nouns after, and we see what phrases. So these sensors can detect ... Changes were detected. Or cancer was detected. This system can detect the presence of radiation in ice. Something like that. So detect, detection. I mean, everybody knows the word detective. A detective can detect signs of, let's say, criminality. So that's what Sherlock Holmes, that was his superpower, to detect these little things, these little changes, these tiny differences, which helped him to solve crimes, to solve mysteries. So that's what detectives do. They detect tiny changes. The next one. Остаток своей жизни он провел в изгнании. He spent the rest of his life in exile. So here the EX is pronounced with a Z. So it becomes like exile. Egg. Something like that. Exile. Exile. In exile. In exile. In exile. In exile. I feel like I can use both. Exile. 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 That's quite interesting. I will just check what the dictionary gives. So the dictionary for British gives exile, and for American gives exile. That's why. So that's the British version, exile, and that's the American version. But as you can see, to me that wasn't immediately obvious. So to me, exile, exile. Exile doesn't sound American to me. That's interesting. So you can choose. You can say exile. You can say exile. It really doesn't matter. It's also an adjective. So противники царя были сосланы в Сибирь. The Tsar's opponents were exiled to Siberia. We're exiled. We're exiled. You can use American or British pronunciation. All right, the next one. Я не могу ухватить эту тему. I can't grasp this topic. I can't grasp it. Let's look at some other things that can be grasped. Let's have a look. So, hand. He grasped my hand. It's kind of like saying he grabbed my hand. I can't grasp this concept. So, concept here, вот это понятие. I can't grasp it. I can't get my head around it. Like, get a hold of it. Не могу ухватить. I can't grasp it. I can't grasp your meaning. I'm trying to grasp it, but I can't grasp it. So, grasp. The next one. Ребенок был похищен, наверное. The child was kidnapped. I just want to talk about stress. So it's kidnapped. The stress is on the first syllable. But we can't say we can't make the big. So what do? Was kidnapped. We do more of a pause before the cut. Was like my mouth goes into the k position, but I don't release the sound immediately, and that marks the stress. Was kidnapped. I also add a bit of extra aspiration as well. The child was kidnapped. Was kidnapped. But I don't say kid with lots of like a Russian stressed vowel. No, kidnapped. Kidnapped. Lots of aspiration and a little pause. Was kidnapped. The next one. Расследование выявило допинговую сеть. The probe uncovered a doping network. The probe. Who conducts probes? Let's look at some words that are often found around the word probe. That might help us to get an idea of how the word is used. So, space. Because we send probes into space. NASA sent a probe to Mars. So that's sent into space. But the Russia probe didn't uncover any wrongdoing. So that's the investigation into... This was connections between Trump and Russia after Trump's election in 2016. There was a long Russia probe, like an investigation. They didn't find anything. So a probe is a kind of police investigation. Or we can use it to talk about space. Like you can see here, we also find NASA, we find Mars, we find space. So two things, space and the police, the security services. Next one. Вот стенограмма их разговора. Here is a transcript of their conversation. So this is the word transcript. You might see under this video, actually, on YouTube. YouTube also gives a show transcript button. So you can click the transcript button if you want to see what I'm saying. That's if YouTube can understand me. Hopefully it can. And so you can also read the lesson if you click the transcript button. And when you say it, transcript, try to do a big sh. Transcript, like that. Transcript. Transcript. That will sound more natural. Natural. Okay, next one. This is the last one in the first part of the lesson. Был выдан order на его арест. It's interesting. The word order is used in Russian. It's not order in English. It's a warrant has been issued for his arrest. For some reason, voice typing missed the article. A warrant has been issued. A warrant. So we talk about warrants for someone's arrest, but we also use warranted as an adjective. Warranted, like deserved. Unwarranted, undeserved. And if I put this word in, then I think, yeah, that's not very many words. Let's try unwarranted. I think we'll get more hits. Yes, that's better, isn't it? That's an unwarranted assumption. That's необоснованное предположение. Not unwanted, unwarranted. That's an unwarranted assumption. No. Try again. That is an unwarranted assumption. It's not working. Let's try this. Your criticism was unwarranted. No. Yes. Got there in the end. Third time lucky. Now let's try it here. That is an unwarranted assumption. No. Yes. Yes. Finally, I got there. Sometimes voice typing is tricky. You try to pronounce unwarranted and see if you can get it. Anyway, unwarranted, необоснованной, or которые нельзя оправдывать. You can also talk about an unwarranted invasion of privacy. Or unwarranted fear. He has unwarranted influence. He came under unwarranted criticism. It seems like voice typing has learned to identify unwarranted, which is nice. So, unwarranted. That's 10 words. So, if you like, press pause, take a break, review the words. You might want to come back tomorrow because you're trying to learn 10 words a day. Or you might want to keep watching and listen to what I have to say about the next set of 10 words. Okay, part 2. Word number 511. Прогресс иногда имеет неблагоприятные последствия. Progress sometimes has adverse effects. Adverse, неблагоприятные. Let's look at some nouns which are often used with this word. Number 1 is adverse effects. We also talk about adverse events. We talk about an adverse reaction to treatment. For example, that's usually a medical thing. If the patient had an adverse reaction to the treatment. You can talk about it had an adverse impact on society. So instead of saying negative impact, say adverse impact. That sounds sophisticated. And then we also use the noun adversity quite often. She overcame. She overcame serious adversity in childhood, for example. Adversity. Difficult circumstances. That's adversity. Okay, the next one. Ты меня изменяешь? Are you cheating on me? So, I'm sure you know that to cheat, if you cheat in a game, даже читеры говорят, если играешь нечестно, that's cheating in a game. But in a relationship, cheating is изменяться. Are you cheating on me? And about pronunciation, remember that English ch, it's more like a Russian to sh. Cheating. It's really, really soft. Cheating. Cheating. And again, here we have two consonants which are kind of aspirated with a lot of breath. So we also use a lot of breath on the vowel. Cheating. With breath. Cheating. Cheating on me. Cheat. Okay, the next one. Она выдвинула противоположную точку зрения. She puts forward a contrary point of view. Not country. She puts forward a contrary point of view. Yes. The most common phrase with this word is, on the contrary, I think it's a great idea. Not country. Try again. No. Full stop. On the contrary, comma, I think it's a terrible idea. Наоборот. On the contrary. Or here we have a contrary point of view. And what other nouns are often used after contrary? Let's have a look. So, there is contrary evidence which points in the other direction. Or a contrary opinion, противоположное мнение, a contrary position, противоположная позиция, I think, in an argument, contrary. There is also an adjective, contrary. It's spelt exactly the same. There's a children's nursery rhyme. It goes, Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? This adjective contrary isn't used very often, especially nowadays. It's quite old-fashioned, but it's used for somebody who's a bit weird, a bit strange, who's not like everybody else. And you can also say, he's a contrarian, which is somebody who always takes opposite opinions to everybody else. So contrary and contrarian, also a word worth knowing. Next. Все граждане имеют право на государственную пенсию. All citizens are entitled to a state pension. They're entitled to a pension. They have a right to the pension. Entitled to... and then if we do... We often use it with verbs, actually. Let's see what verbs we get if I put this in. It's all the most common verbs. He's entitled to have 3 votes. Votes? Boats. I said votes, but never mind. You're entitled to receive benefits. You're not entitled to know that. So if we're talking about rights, you can use this word entitled. The next one. Советской экономике был присущ ряд недостатков. The Soviet economy had a number of inherent weaknesses. So if something is inherent, it's right. It's like it's part of the essence of something. And again, it's useful to look at some other collocations to get an idea of how the word is used. So it has no inherent value. That means, sushi. In its essence, there is no value. There is an inherent conflict between these two worldviews. So if something's inherent, it's very deep. It's right in the center. It's right in the core of something. There is an inherent risk in this activity. It's always there, the risk, because it's right in the core, the essence, an inherent. Okay, let's look at the next one. Я просто пытался помочь тебе. Of course you can say, I was just trying to help you. But if you want to be more sophisticated and a little more formal, I was merely trying to help you. So there's this word merely. I was merely trying to help you. Просто. And there's also the adjective mere. Сам факт заключается в том, что вы потеряли деньги. The mere fact is that you lost the money. So, mere. It rhymes with here. So it should be easy to remember the pronunciation. Mere. The mere fact. And what else can be mere? The mere... As you can see, mere fact is number 1. The mere presence of a mosquito drives him crazy. Not mere presence, the mere presence. Just when it's present, or we're mere mortals. Nope, didn't work. We're mere mortals. Nope, try again. We are mere mortals. No, I think it's impossible. I'll try one more time. We are mere mortals. It doesn't work. This phrase mere mortals is impossible, I think. But as you can see, it's used quite often. Mere mortals. Let's find a good translation. Mere mortals. Простые смертные. That's what we are. Мы простые смертные. We are mere mortals. Okay, the next one. Соотношение учителей и учеников составляет 1 к 12. The teacher-to-student ratio is 1 to 12. So here the word is ratio. The ratio is 1 to 12. Ratio. I don't have a lot to say about that word. Ratio, radio. Next one. Компаниям трудно удерживать хороших IT-специалистов. It's hard for companies to retain good IT specialists. So, to retain something is удерживать. We also use retain in sports. Novak Djokovic retained the Australian Open title for the 5th time. He won it again. And again, and again, and again, if it's Novak Djokovic. He retained the title for the 5th time. Or Bayern Munich retained the Bundesliga title again. I think they win it every year. To retain. Retained. And there's a noun, retention. Удержание клиентов очень важно для нашего бизнеса. Client retention is very important for our business. Retention. I expect that client retention is the number one hit for retention. Let's have a look. Oh, student retention is higher. Student retention is important for our university or our school. We want to retain the students. Water retention, to try not to lose, not to waste the water. That's interesting. In fact, client retention, it's not even there. It's that right down near the bottom. Interesting. But they also use customer retention. So that's about покупателя. Employee retention. Yeah, actually it should be client, like that, without the S. Interesting. Удержание, retention. Next. Эта ветка может сломаться. That branch might snap. So, of course, you know the verb to break, but if something breaks in this particular way, that is to snap. So you can snap a branch. And there are some other things that snap as well. Oops, not snap. Let's look at collocates. So there are things that we snap. This is to snap your fingers. He snapped his fingers. To snap a picture. Some people use that phrase as well for taking a photo. Snap a picture. Some nice snaps. You can snap your neck. That's not good. He snapped the chicken's neck. I don't know. Snapped. And let's look at the next one. Она сделала мне устное предупреждение. She gave me a verbal warning. Устное, verbal warning. It's interesting, it has the word verb in it. Verbal, what else can be? Verbal, let's have a look. Verbal abuse, if it's spoken. Verbal communication, spoken. Verbal skills, verbal aggression, etc. So verbal, using your mouth. There's also a phrase, He gave a verbose description. What? No. He gave a verbose description. So the word I'm looking for is this. Verbose. Verbose. But as you can see with obscure words we don't use very often, voice typing doesn't work very well. Verbose means, a lot of words, more words than necessary. Verbose. Okay, that's another set of 10. So if you like, press pause. Maybe try to write some example sentences using the words. If there were any new words for you, then come back, watch the next part of the lesson. All right, moving on to part 3. Каналом пользуются многие грузовые суда. Many cargo ships use the canal. Грузовые, you can use the word cargo. It's interesting with trains, we rarely use the word. We don't say a cargo train. If it's a train, грузовой поезд, then it's a freight train or a goods train. Not goods, a goods train. But with ships, it's a cargo ship. I'm not sure what else. What else is often cargo? A cargo bay is where the cargo is unloaded. You can have a cargo plane, as you can see, because cargo, strange word, it can also be the word for the stuff on the ship. The ship's cargo was unloaded into the cargo bay. So that's everything that was on the ship is the cargo. Cargo. Very strange word. The next one. Эти ароматы прекрасно дополняют друг друга. These flavors complement one another nicely. Now that is the wrong kind of compliment. So this is tricky because there's compliment to compliment, which is to say something nice. And there's also to compliment with an I, which is like to bring to completion. So in this case, they complement one another. They create the whole effect. That's how they complement one another. Whereas if you compliment somebody, you say something nice to them. The hotel offers complimentary drinks. So complimentary drinks, it's like a nice thing. It's like a gift. It's with an I. But complimentary with an E, what can be complimentary? Complimentary. You can have they play complementary roles, or which come together to create something good, or complementary medicine, not free medicine. Complementary with an E means that add to each other. Now, this is a strange word. You really need to know from the context what's being spoken about, because complementary medicine, it might be like my employer gives me complimentary healthcare. That means free healthcare. Like it's a nice gift. It's like a kind of gift. Whereas complementary treatments might be this and this treatment and this treatment. They complement each other. They come together to create something good. So, tricky word. Complements. The next one. Я слежу за тем, чтобы компании соблюдали местное налоговое законодательство. I make sure that companies comply with local tax law. So, to comply with is соблюдать закон. compliance. That's the noun. And if I write here comply with, and then we do collocates and nouns. Oops. I'm sure we'll see. Look. Oops. Whoops. Like that. I'm sure we'll see law comes up. Comply with the law, comply with requirements, comply with regulations, comply with rules, comply with standards, comply with terms. You get the idea. Okay, the next one. Существовал заговор с целью убийства короля. There was a conspiracy to kill the king. Заговор. Conspiracy. We often talk about conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists. And it comes from the noun conspire. They conspired to kill the king. Not inspired, yeah, there. Try again. They conspired to kill the king. There. To conspire. The next one. Ему приписывали заслуги в установлении мира в регионе. He was credited for bringing peace to the region. They credited him. Приписывали ему заслуги. He was credited. They gave him the credit. Sometimes people say, it's not fair, full stop. You get all the credit. Of course, we're not talking about кредит in this context. We're saying you get all the заслуги, the praise, and I don't get any credit. He took credit that wasn't due to him. So somebody else did the work and he took the credit, and it's not fair. Credit, be credited for. The next one. Он просто хочет обогатить себя и своих друзей. He just wants to enrich himself and his friends. So in this context, enrich is about money. But actually we often use enrich to talk more about other things which make our life better. It was an enriching experience. You know, it made my life richer in different ways. What else could be enriching? Let's look at it. We don't need these brackets. Yes, enriching uranium, that's something else. If you want nuclear power or nuclear weapons, you need to enrich uranium. But also enriching experiences, enriching activities, enriching discussions, enriching that make our life richer. Okay, the next one. Мы провели опрос. There's a word survey. We carried out a survey. But there's another word for this. We carried out a poll. Это значит, мы вынесли поляка. A poll. There's no difference in the pronunciation of poll and poll. So it's impossible with voice typing. The poll indicated that Trump was going to win the election. So in this context, voice typing understands which kind of poll I'm talking about. Опрос, poll. But with carried out, it couldn't guess the right one. And people who carry out polls are called pollsters. According to the pollsters, not posters, polls. According to pollsters, no, can't do it. Pollsters, не знаю, опросники, maybe. But they're the people who carry out the poll, like Levada Center in Russia, or ipsos mori in Britain. The next one. Пастор не практикует то, что он проповедует. Проповедовать. The pastor doesn't practice what he preaches. So, проповедовать is to preach. Preach. Here we have an E, but it comes before a ch, so try to add more breath. Preachers. With a smile. Preachers. Doesn't practice what he preaches. Preacher. And the next one. Он был приговорен к 3 годам тюремного заключения. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Remember that after a s, the D is pronounced t, so we get sen, something like that. Sentenced, a long s at the beginning. Sentenced to 3. Sentenced to 3 years in prison. And you can also use it as a noun. He got a prison sentence. Or if it's смертная казнь, he got a death sentence. So, sentence, obviously it's предложение with a full stop, but it's also used when we talk about the law and when somebody is found guilty and sentenced. The next one, that's the last one in this part of the lesson. Я на мгновение отвел взгляд, и собака исчезла. Просто исчезла. I looked away for a moment and the dog vanished. No, not varnished. No. The dog vanished. Not varnished. What? I looked away for a moment and the dog vanished. Okay, with American pronunciation it worked. That's weird because varnish, that's something else. That's what you put on wood to make it shiny. I don't know. I put a coat of varnish on the chair. A coat in this context is about paint. So that's varnish. But here, I don't know. The varnish vanished. There we go. Исчез. Varnish is lack. Of course it's lack. I knew that. Lack. So, lack исчез. The varnish vanished. When you say vanished, try to pronounce the V with a smile. Vanished. Vanished. The varnish vanished. Исчезла. Of course, you can also say disappeared, but we like synonyms. It makes your language richer. It enriches your language. No. Come on, voice typing. Come on. It enriches your language. Second time lucky. Got it. All right. That's another 10 words. So press pause, take a little break, have a drink, review the vocabulary, and then you can watch the next part of the lesson. Part 4. В Норвегии много воды. There is a lot of water in Norway. Yes, you can say that. Water is abundant in Norway. Если много, you can say abundant. There's so much. It's an adjective, so we can talk about abundant. Let's have a look. Abundant evidence. Множество доказательств. There is abundant evidence. There is abundant life in the rainforest. We've got an abundant supply of water. There is abundant food for elephants. I don't know. Abundant. Or the noun, an abundance. More than we need. Lots and lots. Abundant. And remember, a long n before a d. Abundant. But a very short n before a t. And abundant. Abundant. There we go. Next one. Все изменилось после государственного переворота. Госпереворот. Everything changed after the coup. No, not crew. Everything changed after the coup. Got it, second time. Coup. Coup. What do I say? Coup. Everything changed after the coup. It doesn't understand the Russian version. Thank goodness for that. Coup. So how can you make your device understand your pronunciation of coup? Coup. You need to start with the proper k with your mouth open, and then coup, and then close it. Coup. Coup. Like that. Coup. If you want the long version, there was a coup d'etat. No, maybe I need to pronounce the T at the end. There was a coup d'etat. It doesn't work. It's supposed to be French. Coup d'etat. Coup d'etat. But usually we miss out the French bit. Stop typing. Stop it. Stop it. There was a coup d'etat. There was a coup. A coup. The next one. Каким будет ваше наследие? What will your legacy be? So you can leave an inheritance. So inheritance is usually financial, or it's your property, but your legacy, that's how did you change the world? How did you make the world different? Or how did you change your community? Or how did you change the sphere that you work in? What's your legacy? Actually, and you don't have to die. You might leave a company or leave a school and leave a legacy behind you. So we could talk about Obama's legacy, because he's not president anymore. So this is Obama's legacy. He's still alive. Anyway, legacy. How did you change the world? How did you change society? The next one. Пальчики у ребенка совсем маленькие, малюсенькие. The baby's toes are minute. No. Try again. The baby has got minute toes. Nope. The word is, it looks like minute. Minute toes. But it's pronounced minute. Like that. Minute. Minute. The baby's got minute toes. It doesn't work with American pronunciation either. Never mind. Maybe you can make voice typing work for this word. But minute, the adjective, not minute, the noun, minute, minute, means tiny. Has got, let's type it in here as well, minute toes. Minute, not minute. You can also say miniature or mini. The baby has got miniature toes. Miniature. Little. Or minute, tiny. The next one. He took a deep breath and nirnul vodu. He took a deep breath and plunged into the water. Now, you might know that the j sound that we have in this word plunge, it's actually dj, which means we have a nd. And as you know, the n before d is long. So we get plunged. Plunged into the water. Plunge. He took the plunge and asked her to marry him. We sometimes use this phrase, he took the plunge, when, he took a decisive step in some direction. He took the plunge and quit his job to start his new business, for example. He took the plunge. He took a decisive step. Plunge. The next one. Мы не должны допустить, чтобы СМИ узнали об этом. So another word for СМИ is the press. We must not let the press find out about this. Now, I think the press can be presa in Russian as well, so this isn't too difficult. Press. Just remember when you have a p-r, we aspirate the p a lot. So I sometimes write it like this. Oi. Like that. Press. With a lot of air. Press. The next one. Я проснулся с негнущимися ногами. Sorry about my pronunciation there. I woke up with stiff legs. So if something is stiff, it's негнущийся. It doesn't bend like it should. It's stiff. Let's look at some other things that can be stiff. Stiff. I've got a stiff neck. I've got a stiff neck. It's interesting as well, these t words. Maybe you know. Usually, obviously, t is pronounced with aspiration, t, but after s, it's not. So it sounds like that. Stiff. Stiff neck. S, a little pause, and then diff. Stiff neck. I've got a stiff neck. I need a stiff drink. That means a strong drink of something. There was a stiff breeze. Means, not stiff breeze, a stiff breeze means quite a strong breeze. There was stiff competition for the title. Большая конкуренция. That's quite a nice collocation. So stiff, it can be about our joints that are stiff. There's stiffness, but there are some other interesting collocations too. Let's look at the next one. Он исчез бесследно. He disappeared without a trace. A trace. So traces, there are tracks and there are traces. So what's the difference? Well, tracks, it's like footprints or paw prints. If we're talking about an animal, they would be tracks. Tracks are quite substantial, whereas traces, they're much less substantial. They're just tiny amounts, tiny little signs. That would be traces. So I don't know, a trace. So tiger tracks would be like tiger paw prints, whereas tiger traces might be a little tiger hair somewhere, or the smell of tiger urine somewhere. So they would be traces, little signs, traces. He disappeared without a trace. There weren't even any little signs of where he had gone. There was no trace. He was untraceable. He couldn't be found because he left no trace. The next one. Плата за обучение в университете по-прежнему растет. So if we're talking about обучение, there's a word tuition. University tuition fees are still rising. You might know the word tutor, repetitor. I work as a tutor. I work as a tutor. Я работаю репетитором. And this is where tuition comes from. Payment for your tutor. Tuition fees. In the past, in universities, most students were taught by tutors. Like at Oxford, at Cambridge, it's still like that. Students still have tutors who teach them 1-to-1 or 1-to-2. I think it's a cool system. So that's where this word tuition fees comes from. Tuition. And the next one, which is the last one in this set of 10, предвыборная кампания на предстоящих выборах в самом разгаре. Предстоящие выборы. campaigning for the upcoming election is in full swing. So the election is upcoming. Предстоящие выборы. The upcoming election. What else can be upcoming? Something which is coming up, basically. It's coming up, it's upcoming. So the upcoming election, the upcoming season. If we're talking about sports, if it's football, the football season starts in August. So in July, we talk about they're in training for the upcoming season. Or, we're preparing for our upcoming event, for our upcoming book launch. The film is about to be released. It's an upcoming film. So it's coming up. It's upcoming. All right, that's another set of 10. So feel free to pause the video, or if you're just watching it from start to finish, stay with me, and I'm going to talk about the last words in this lesson. So, number 541. Его рисунки двухмерны. His drawings are two-dimensional. So, two-dimensional is 2D. 3D is three-dimensional. Sometimes at the cinema they talk about like 4D or 5D because they add, I don't know, blowing air and they add some smells and they say, oh, now it's got 5 dimensions. I'm not sure that really works. Anyway, but 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional, obviously we use these phrases a lot. Sometimes you can also say 1-dimensional. The team's approach is rather 1-dimensional. Like they only have one way. So in football, for example, they only have one way of doing something. It's a 1-dimensional approach. Dimensions. The next one. Не могли бы вы подробнее изложить свое предложение? This is very formal in English. And in Russian too, it sounds like. Can you elaborate on your proposal? Can you elaborate? Подробнее изложить. To elaborate. To give some more details. To use some more words. And we also have an adjective and an adverb. Ее волосы были тщательно уложены. Her hair was elaborately arranged. So the verb is elaborate. So we have elaborate rhymes with hate, but the adjective is elaborate rhymes with hut. Elaborate, elaborate. The stress stays on the second syllable, but the final syllable changes. Elaborate, elaborate. Elaborate, elaborate. What else can be elaborate, elaborately? Let's have a look. Elaborate. It's an elaborate system. So it's elaborate. It's really quite complicated with lots of small details. It's an elaborate system, an elaborate scheme, an elaborate hoax. Это мошенническая система какая-то. Схема. Мошенническая схема. An elaborate hoax. An elaborate plan. An elaborate ruse. A ruse. Это тоже схема мошенническая. Так что у нас есть вот. We have a lot of phrases like that. Elaborate. Elaborate. Elaborate costumes with lots of tiny details. Elaborate. With details. To elaborate. To add details. The next one. Пирамиды – это выдающиеся достижения инженерной мысли. The pyramids are a remarkable feat of engineering. No, come on, you know that this phrase feat of is not about ноги. It's about подвиг, достижение, a great feat. Yes, the pronunciation of feat, ноги, and a feat. Wait, I said a feat. It really, I'm not impressed. Come on, improve your algorithm, Apple. A remarkable feat of engineering. It was a feat of endurance. I mean, come on. They should know that you can't have a feat like that. Anyway, a feat of endurance. A feat of, let's see what else can be a feat of. A feat of, we'll go up to 6. A feat of engineering, a feat of great strength, a feat of endurance, a feat of imagination. Достижение. The next one. Она пристально посмотрела ему в глаза. She gazed into his eyes. When you pronounce these words, gaze and eyes, try to pronounce a lot of y. When we have a voiced consonant at the end of the word, we stretch the vowel, the y. Gaze. It's actually sort of pronounced like that, isn't it? Gaze. And then eyes. Gazed, eyes. Gaze, eyes. Lots of y, and as you pronounce the y, try to get quieter. Gaze, eyes. Gaze, eyes. She gazed into his eyes. And look, gazed in the smile position. Eyes. Relaxed lips. A-I. Gazed eyes. Gazed eyes. Gaze. There's also a nice phrase with this word. She averted her gaze. No, not homosexuals. Gaze. Means she looked the other way. She averted her gaze. Okay, the next one. Правительство хочет размещать просителей убежища в отелях. The government wants to house asylum seekers in hotels. Thank goodness for that. Wants to house. So, yes, a house, the noun, is s at the end, but to house is z. Of course, that means we pronounce s and z at the end, but it also really changes the vowel. Before a s, an unvoiced sound, we say a, w. House, house, house. But before the z, we say a, w, z. House, 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 house. So the w is much longer before the voiced sound. House, 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 house. The next one. Школа была закрыта на 2 недели из-за вспышки кори. The school was closed for 2 weeks due to a measles outbreak. An outbreak of measles. Let's see what other things can break out. So we can have an outbreak of... Let's have 4 words afterwards and have a look. So war breaks out. So yes, we talk about the outbreak of war. Violence breaks out. The outbreak of violence between tribes. You can talk about the outbreak of disease. Nasty illnesses. A cholera outbreak. Not colour. Cholera. As you can see with these more obscure words, it's much more difficult to use voice typing, and some of them really don't work. Anyway, never mind. Outbreak for violence, war, and diseases. The next one. Китай имеет большое положительное сальдо торгового баланса. Сальдо. China has a big trade surplus. So surplus is sальдо. Surplus. Honestly, I didn't know the Russian word сальдо, so I don't know whether you know the word surplus, but there you go. A surplus. And if we have a lot of something, we can say a surplus of, I think we only need 4, yeah. That you can talk about the size of the surplus. A surplus of 1 billion, a surplus of 1 million, a surplus of energy, more energy than we need, a surplus of labour, more labor than we need. Surplus. Next one. Ваши действия подорвали мой авторитет. Your actions undermined my authority. So it's like they put a mine under my authority. Bang. Now, I don't know what kind of mine is meant here, because a mine can be Schachta and a mine can be mina, like in battle. So I really don't know, because both of them would damage my authority. If you dig a mine underneath me, I can fall down. If you put a mine underneath me, I can blow up. And I don't know which one is the one which to undermine comes from, but it's if you undermine my authority, then you damage my reputation. You bring me down. The next one. Мы работаем над минимально жизнеспособным продуктом. We are working. Oops, wrong language. We are working on a minimum viable product. So if something's viable, then it's жизнеспособный. Viable. What can come after viable? This is a viable option. Жизнеспособный вариант. This alternative is inviolable. No! Try again. This alternative is inviable. I think inviable is the opposite of viable. Inviable. Viable, inviable. Better to say not viable. Play it safe. This alternative is not нежизнеспособный. It's not viable. It's a viable solution. Yeah, it could work. It's not a viable business proposal. Это нежизнеспособный. So, nice word, actually. Viable. And remember to put a big y in the middle. Viable. 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 And the last word. Rana. Инфицирована. The wound is infected. Tricky word because you need to say wa, wa, da. Wound, 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 wound. The wound is infected, not just wound. Wound, wound. And still try to keep a gap between your teeth when you pronounce it. Wound, wound, woo, 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 wound. If you pronounce it Russian style, wound, 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 with your teeth together and your mouth closed, it will be wound. No, wound, wound, lower your jaw. Wound, woo, woo, wound. The wound is infected. So wound is rana, and wound is also ее слова ранили меня. Her words wounded me. Let's start again. Her words wounded me. It's really struggling here. Her words wounded me. Nearly there. Her words wounded me. Yes, third time lucky. Her words wounded me. Tricky. Words wound. Words wound. Wound. Lots of w, which makes it harder. Yeah. Her words wounded me. You try speech, voice typing. See if you can do it. Right, that's all. Thank you for watching the lesson to the end. That's the main thing. But it's even better if you like the video and also subscribe if you haven't done that yet, and leave a comment if you enjoyed the lesson or if you have any questions or suggestions. And if you haven't tried the full version of the course yet on hopkinsenglish.com, take a look. I think it is an effective way to really get these words into your head and into your active vocabulary. So these videos are good. I hope that they're useful. But if you really want to master the words, then I think the full version of the course could help you. All right. See you soon for the next set of 50. Bye.